the state of stimulus, including the stimulus package and those second stimulus checks, as well as the new ride coming to an amusement park near you called the Stimulus Roller Coaster, featuring treacherous peaks, deep dark valleys, hairpin turns, and drama around every corner. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Matt. As you can tell, the stimulus is absolutely ridiculous, but let's get right into it and talk what's going on today with the latest updates. But as always, my videos pertain to everybody, including Social Security, retirement, disability, and survivors, SSI, supplemental security income, VA, RRB, low income, no income, and whatever else you want to say. The underdog, the underserved, the underrepresented. I look out for all of you, so thank you so much for being here and for your support. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Let's get right into it. But today is Wednesday, October 14th, and let's see what's going on with the state of stimulus. So this morning, Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi, the two people who are doing the negotiation on the behalf of all of the American people for the next stimulus package, they spoke for about an hour this morning, which is pretty good for them considering they typically only speak for anywhere between 30 and 50 or so minutes. So the fact that they went over by 10 minutes is incredible. I can't believe they lasted 1 hour, but yeah, they did it. They spoke for an hour this morning, and once again, they came back comparing notes from the latest proposal that was introduced by Steve Mnuchin just the other day over the weekend. So they keep going back and forth with this. So to me, it feels like they're just dragging their feet and, they're just running out the clock. But it seems like every time they meet, they compare notes, going back and forth, asking for further explanation on, probably one or two questions. Seriously, it takes them a couple days to come up with answers. So they work incredibly slow. I can't believe it. I mean, if they worked for any corporation, I feel like they would have been fired months ago. But wow, it's pathetic. Anyway, so they have plans to meet or speak, whether they're actually meeting face-to-face, but probably actually speaking over the phone once again tomorrow. So that's good. At least they're speaking. But yeah. So this is actually pretty interesting. Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi was actually interviewed on the program with Wolf Blitzer. This is actually pretty interesting. Now, what's interesting about this is this network is typically pretty left-leaning. So the fact that in this interview, Wolf Blitzer was he was kind of getting on Nancy a little bit, which was, I thought, pretty interesting. It was a very interesting interview because typically all these people are, basically on the same team. They're all kind of left-wing people, which, whatever, that's fine. But it was interesting because in this interview, Wolf kept kind of going at Nancy, like, come on, Nancy, like, give us answers. He wasn't saying that specifically, but he was, kind of poking at her, trying to get answers out of her, and she got very defensive. The interview started out just fine, like any interview typically does, but toward the end of it, Nancy, you could tell she was getting a little irritated, and it was kind of funny to watch. At the same time, it was a little bit awkward. Meanwhile, Wolf, maintained his composure like he always does. Great job to him. And but anyway, he just kind of kept going at her, trying to get more answers. But Nancy was very defensive, actually stating that people who are criticizing her over this proposal and the package and not coming together on a deal, things like that, she specifically said these people do not know the particulars of the deal or of the proposal. So interesting. Anyway, I know that was yesterday, but I wanted to point it out anyway because I thought certainly a very interesting interview with Nancy there. So yeah, she's been getting kind of a lot of heat lately, which is interesting. So another thing, Mitch McConnell, again, I've said this before in some of my other videos. Mitch McConnell, we don't have to listen to a whole lot of what he's saying lately because these negotiations are not between him. It's between Steve Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi. However, Mitch McConnell was out, and he, along with the Senate, will be returning back to session on Monday. So in a few days, they will be returning back to session. However, what's interesting is when they come back to session, Mitch McConnell intends on proposing a new stimulus package or a new stimulus proposal, a skinny proposal, a targeted proposal, whatever you want to call it, skinny, targeted, whatever you want to call it, basically the same thing. They introduced one of these, gosh, when was that? Was it back in August? I don't even remember now. It was a while ago. I think it was back in August, maybe even late July, something like that. They introduced this skinny proposal, and once again, Democrats didn't even entertain it. They literally did not even entertain this skinny proposal. But Mitch McConnell is coming back, and he's going to propose a new skinny or targeted proposal this coming week. So I'm not really sure why. I'm thinking Mitch, let's work on something that's actually going to get some traction. He's actually, this is kind of funny, he's actually daring Democrats to block it again. So can you imagine Mitch throwing out a dare? I feel like it brings me back to the days when I was like 12, doing like truth or dare with my friends or whatever. So just picture Mitch McConnell throwing out a dare to Nancy. It's kind of funny. But anyway, so yeah, he's going to have this skinny proposal. But here's the bad thing about this new skinny proposal, or the skinny proposal that we saw a few months ago. Here's the bad thing. It includes a little bit of spending, typically around $500 billion, which, $500 billion is still a ton of money. But in relation to the multiple trillions of dollars we're typically talking about, it's small, right? But here's the problem. It only focuses on a few different things, mainly PPP, maybe funding for schools, stuff like that. But what it does not include is stimulus checks. So that's the really bad thing about these targeted bills. But however, before, don't get upset quite yet, here's the deal. The likelihood of this getting any traction is almost zero. It's just not going to get any traction. Maybe the Republicans will support it, some of them. But for the most part, Democrats are not going to support this. They've already made it very clear. I've said this multiple times in other videos of mine. Nancy has made it very, very clear. She's not supporting one of these targeted bills or piecemeal bills, whatever you want to say. So it's just not going to get anywhere. So, don't worry about it. But that is one of the downfalls. I just wanted to throw it out there. It does not include stimulus checks. So that is a bad thing. However, Steve Mnuchin continues to reiterate that, he continues to reiterate that they really need to kind of forget the whole comprehensive package and push this through as individual bills. What I mean by that is PPP, the Payroll Protection Program for Small Business. Find a number, agree on it, pass it, done, over. Next, stimulus checks, $1,200, $1,000 for dependents, all of that business. Everybody agrees, pass it through the House, pass it through the Senate, sign it by the president, done. Move on to the next one. They've all been kind of pushing for this, especially Steve Mnuchin has kind of really been saying, this is what we need to do to get this done. They agree on so many different aspects of this current stimulus proposal, this stimulus package. The problem is there's just a few issues that are holding the whole thing up. So if it were up to them and they could push through these individual packages, these individual bills, we would have had stimulus checks months ago, most likely. But this is the problem. They're being held up. They're being held up in this stimulus package that is, not containing everything that both parties want, and they're just not agreeing. So it's unfortunate, and it's really interesting. Also, I want to throw this out there. This was yesterday, but again, I just want to say it anyway because it's interesting. President Trump tweeted, you probably already heard this already, but anyway, President Trump tweeted, "Go big or go home." In other words, he is urging everybody to go for the bigger package. Not necessarily the $2.2 trillion that Nancy Pelosi has proposed, but more like the $1.8, $1.9 trillion package that Republicans have proposed. He's also trying to urge the GOP senators to agree and support this latest proposal, the $1.8 or $1.9 trillion package that was proposed by Steve Mnuchin. Because as we know, I talked about this a couple times over the last couple days, which is there's a handful of Republicans in the Senate who are opposing it. They don't like it. They don't want to fund. They don't want to agree and support any additional spending like this. But like I said, it's only a small handful. Even if these people have voted against it when eventually the stimulus package comes to them to vote on, even if they voted against it, there still should be enough support within the Senate to get it passed anyway. So that shouldn't really be a big deal. Kind of like the old saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So these people, this handful of people who are disagreeing, they're kind of getting all the attention because they're kind of making all the noise. So anyway, don't really worry about them. It's just a matter of we need to get the package agreed upon between Steve Mnuchin as well as Nancy and President Trump. As soon as that happens, then it can finally go to the House and Senate for voting. But until then, we're not going to get any voting until we get some kind of agreement between those parties first. So anyway, when it comes to COVID, I want to talk about this because this is also interesting. As we look over into European countries, actually this is interesting. Paris is implementing a curfew, a COVID curfew. If it is violated, there's actually going to be pretty steep fines. I think it's $176 or the equivalent for the first offense. And then after that, it goes up significantly. So this is intense. They're implementing these curfews, as well as other European countries are implementing more intense lockdowns across a handful of other European countries. So again, I've said this before over the last couple of weeks, couple days and couple of weeks. These European countries, they're going into the same routine that we saw earlier this year, which is going into these lockdowns. And then guess what? We saw something very similar to that not that many months later. So I don't know. Is it our crystal ball looking into the future as we look over at Europe and say, what's going on over there? Is that kind of our little crystal ball into the future, what could potentially be coming here? So I don't know. Just something to be aware of anyway. But anyway, I hope all of you are staying safe. I know this is a frustrating time. If you didn't catch it, check out my video from earlier this morning. I talked about the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment for Social Security recipients. It's a slap in the face. I'll give you a little teaser on the video. The video is not a slap in the face, but rather the COLA is. So if you haven't seen that video, check that one out. But otherwise, again, it's a little bit slow on the stimulus front and news as of right now. But I'm guessing it's going to pick up again a lot more in intensity as we get closer and closer to the election here. But at this point, hopefully all we can do is just, really encourage and, give our support to Nancy and Steve Mnuchin. And hopefully they come together and do the right thing for the American people. But no matter what, I have your back for you, even though the government doesn't. So I'm always here for you. So anyway, enjoy your day, everybody, and I'll catch you.